So this is a Guild X500 that I worked on. It came in with some symptoms of hum. It needed a little cleaning up. It had a missing volume knob and a few other things going on with it. So I did some original electronic testing of it. The guitar is set up now in preparation to actually remove the electronics from the hollow body. So these X500s are really nice. They're very similar to the Gretsch line, and the only way that I can get at the electronics in this sealed box with F-holes is to pull the electronics through the F-holes and through the pickup location. So to get this guitar ready to pull the electronics out now, before you remove the volume controls from one of these hollow bodies, since you can't really get in there and get your hands on things, the best course of action is to tie something off on the control before you drop it into the body. And what I do is I use wires, very strong solid copper wires that have insulation on them, so it keeps from marring the surface. And when I tie that off on a volume control or a tone control, when I remove the nut and drop it into the inside of the body, I can always fish it back out. Right? So you're sort of fishing for electronics then. Now what I've done here is I've protected the finish of the guitar with a towel, and I've pulled the pickup back far enough. You can see that this is one of the bigger openings into the body, and now I can start bringing the electronics, the wiring, the cabling out through this opening. And again, it's very important that you protect the surface of the guitar in these operations, so as many towels or protective surfaces as you need to use, you have to get them over this. So this finishes as received, and we're not going to do any damage to it. So now that I have these pickups on the protective towel, everything is set, and I can go to work on the harness. Still need to pull the pickup selectors. Now again, we're protecting the finish of the guitar with a towel, and it's a handy place to place the pickups since they're obviously out of the guitar. And we've got the wiring running around in a safe location back here through this valley in the guitar, or in the towel. So the components are nestled into this valley running back behind the viewable area. So at this stage of the repair, where I have the harness all laid out on top of the towel on the guitar, I'm really trying to prep to get the thing clean, hot solder joints, get rid of the hum by making sure that the grounding scheme is as perfect as possible. And very soon it'll be time to very carefully place all the components back into the guitar. Now there is a lead that's very responsible for eliminating hum on this guitar, and it's very interesting the way it comes out through the tailstock of the guitar. It actually runs right along next to the output jack, and it's just a little bare wire, and it sticks through the opening of the guitar in the back by the heel, and it gets clamped down by a plate. And one of the things I really want to make sure I attend to on this is that I get a really good connection to the heel, to the tailstock. Here's a detail. If I zoom in a little bit, you can see the wires that I was talking about securing the components. These are the wires that I can use to fish components back out, get them into their proper place. And these are following the components into the guitar, and then they'll be coming out through this opening here. So I've got sort of a string that follows the component as it comes out, and as I then lay it back into the guitar, I can pull the cabling and the components up to where they belong. Now in this shot we see again the wires coming through the control nuts, etc., and it gives you an idea of how I'm going to be able to pull the controls back up through the surface of the guitar when the time comes. You can see the actual body of the potentiometer here. This is a tone control in this case, and the wire securing it as it's going through. So when it's time, I just pull that right up through and it pops its head up, and I've got it back where it belongs. So this is the guts of the guitar now in terms of the electronics. The controls are here. Here's your jack, all the cabling that runs from the pickups to the controls and then out through the jack. And these are our fishing lines here that we'll pull controls back out with. There's a corrosion here that can be removed with a toothbrush and just mild cleaning agents. And of course we can always use a control cleaner to lubricate and clean up the control on the inside. So for the tone control circuitry, the capacitor and the resistor of the tone control together determine where the frequency is that you get a roll off. So that's what determines how much treble and how much bass you get. This wrapping is a way of harnessing the cables together, and that secures everything together once it's inside the guitar. That gets in the way when you have to desolder and resolder connections, and in this case what I'm after, I want to make sure that I have really good, hot, high quality solder joints on each of these connections, especially the ones on the ground. Where this guitar came in with a complaint of a buzz or a hum, I want to be sure that the grounding is top notch, really as good as I can get it. And so I've resoldered this area here, that's why it's a little shinier, and I'll make sure that the connections as we go through this lug of the potentiometer and all the associated electronics are spruced up nice. Nice high quality solder joints on the jack, and we should be in good shape. Where I've got these wires set up so that I can pull the controls right back through the top of the guitar, it's really set up now so that I can do all the work I need to do. I can desolder everything and resolder everything, and then it'll all go back together. So here we have some nice hot solder joints. You can see the flux that's left behind. I'll clean that off, and when this all goes together, we're going to have nice quality electrical connections, and everything will be cleaned up. In addition to having the control cleaner sprayed inside, you always spray right down in here where the wiper goes on the resistor, and that not only cleans the control, but it also prevents further corrosion. Pickups are back in the guitar. I'm using the towel in this case to protect from damage from bringing the tailstock over, where I've slung that back over. And this is the region where that ground wire comes through. It actually comes through a hole right in the main screw that holds the tailstock to the body. And I made sure in this case that I had nice clean bare wire coming out and then wrapping around the screw that holds that down. And it's very important that all the screws that hold the tailstock against that surface are very tight to the guitar. And this gives you the effect everything's back in its place, even the pick guard. So we have the pickup selector switch, the two pickups, we've got the volume and the tone controls, and then you can see that the cabling is routing properly under there, and our output jack is over here, and the ground wire I was discussing is over here. When I look at a neck form, I always like to have a backlight. I have a straight edge that runs down the frets, and I like to visualize what's going on behind. I like to visualize the spacing and the shape of the neck by looking at the light that comes through. And in this case, this neck actually has a bit of a compound shape. It has a little bit of relief in through here, and then where it meets the body of the guitar, it's relatively flat. And that's not really a problem. This guitar plays very well as it was received. I don't have to do any changes to the setup because the owner likes the playability and the action of the guitar right now. But if in the future anything were to change on this, then I would know that I've got maybe a little bit of a disc shape here, followed by a straight here at a little bit of an angle. And so now you see the guitar in perspective. It's looking cleaner, the electronics are cleaner, and we're ready to string it up. Last point of order here is there was a little bit of loose binding here. I've used some crazy glue to bond that back to the neck, and then I use a little bit of tape to temporarily hold that in place. What we went through is we had a nice progression where we looked at how am I going to set this guitar up so I can actually work on it. Talked about the care that we have to take with the guitar, because nobody wants to be getting a guitar back that's all beaten up. We want to respect the instrument, respect the owner's feelings about the instrument, and yet we have to take all of this cabling out and all these mechanical components out of the guitar. So those two things are at odds with each other. What we like to be able to do is protect the surface of the guitar, very carefully remove the components, touch up any of the solder joints that need to be touched up, clean everything up, and then very carefully put everything back together. And so that sort of wraps up how we do the electronics repairs inside of a hollow body guitar.